Prasar Bharati, in collaboration with National Book Trust India, presents Story Lounge on All India Radio.
Contrary to popular perception, reading habits are not on the wane due to multiple sources of information emerging on digital platforms. Yet, book publishing is on a downslide. This ultimately affects people who are on the wrong side of the digital divide and cannot afford new gadgets. To support them, Prasar Bharati and National Book Trust have come together to promote books over the radio, which is an affordable medium in the context of our socio-economic milieu.
In our program Story Lounge, our story today is entitled The Weaver Bird's Nest. A beautiful story of a sweet little fairy who lives in a garden. She does not respect the need of time, and ultimately she suffers. After realizing her mistake, she overcomes her problems, and this fairy then turns into a yellow-colored bird, the weaver bird. The story is authored by Dipanwita Roy.
Hi, I am Dipanwita Roy. Today I am going to read out my story, The Weaver Bird's Nest. The illustrator of this book is Onu Prey. The book is published by National Book Trust India under its Nehru Bal Pustakalay. There was a big garden filled with different kinds of flowers and trees of fruits. During the spring season, colorful flowers complemented the garden. Different kinds of birds, butterflies and insects, rats, squirrels, and a beautiful tiny fairy named Twinkle resided in the garden. This is the story of that little fairy who grows to become a weaver bird. Twinkle, the fairy, is very beautiful. She has two little wings on her back. Her dress is made of golden threads that are finer than those of a spider's web. There are also silver stars on her frock. They glitter in the darkness of the night. A tree of big white roses is standing at one corner of the garden. The fairy lives inside the roses. Every night she sleeps comfortably on the soft petal bed of a white rose. It is springtime, and naturally everyone living in the garden is very busy. The spider living in the grape trees starts making her web with the first light of dawn. She keeps sliding up and down her rope. After a while, the first sun rays come through the leaves and fall on the web. And then the spider becomes very happy to see her handiwork. In one corner of the garden lives a pair of babblers called Dugga Tuntuni. They are the busiest couple in the whole garden. It is time for laying eggs, and the Tuntunis are making a nest for their babies. While one brings the leaves in his beak, the other tears them with her beak and takes out the fine thread-like scales from them. The nest looks like a small bowl. The mother Tuntuni will then lay her eggs in the nest. When the eggs hatch, the nest will be filled with the cries of tiny babbler chicks. The butterflies and bees are also very busy. The garden is overflowing with flowers. The bees and butterflies are humming a happy songs as they move to collect nectar, as this is the right time for it. The caterpillars are also in a hurry. Every morning, as soon as they wake up, they start eating the new leaves of the sajna, that is the drumstick tree. They must eat as much as they can before forming the pupa, and then to emerge as beautiful butterflies. They can't wait. The squirrels are gathering the nuts in the hollows of the trees. The rats are gathering food for their babies. They are collecting the wheat legumes and maize grains that lie in the fields after harvesting. The sunny and bright days of spring make everyone very busy. Everyone except Twinkle, of course. She doesn't have any work at all. She gets up early in the morning and washes her face in the dewdrops gathered on the leaves. Then she gets ready for her day. The whole day is spent singing and dancing and flying about. She flies from one flower to another and sings to herself. Whenever she wishes, she dances on the green velvety grass. No problem, even she feels hungry. She can dine on the nectar of any flower. Then, tired after a whole day of play and fun, she just curls up on the petal of a flower and falls asleep. Looking at the busy activity of the others, Twinkle laughs scornfully and thinks, what fool they are! But I guess they can't help it. After all, they can't dance or sing like me. Can they? The fairy was feeling a little proud. Soon the short spring gets over. The summer sun grows hotter and hotter. The blossoms on the mango tree mature into green mangoes. The flowers in the garden grow less. The rose flowers grow smaller in size. Their fairy can barely stretch out on the petals. There is not much nectar in the flowers. The green grass has dried to a colorless straw. The fairy is worried. Where will she go now? What will she do? Then one scorching day, while all the creatures of the garden are safely inside their homes, Twinkle finds herself without a shelter. So the fairy goes and knocks on the Tuntuni's door. Dear Tuntuni, she says, will you let me stay in your house for a while? It's too hot outside. I'm so tired. Tuntuni answers, there is hardly any space for my babies and myself. Why don't you make a house for yourself? But the fairy doesn't know how to build a house, and neither does she have any wish to do so. So she goes to the spider, but the spider too has no space for her. Sadly, the squirrel and the rat too do not have any space to spare. It seems nobody wants to let her stay in their house. The poor fairy suffers in the heat. Her skin gets badly burnt in the sun. Her wings lose their shine. She faints in the terrible heat. Was she going to die? Finally, after giving it a lot of thought, Twinkle decides to build a house for herself. But how? She then brings some leaves, and seeing this, the creatures of the garden come forward to help her. Tuntuni shows her how to take out threads like strands from leaves. The spider teaches her how to weave a web from those. The caterpillar teaches her how to bind the web into a nest. The fairy manages to build her a very first nest. Well, it is my first attempt, so it is not very perfect, says Fairy shyly as she looks at her nest. True, it looks like an upturned earthen water vessel, but as soon as she enters her nest, the fairy is pleasantly surprised. Oh, how cool! How comfortable! She exclaims. There is nothing better than your own home. The fairy likes her nest so much that she does not go to the rose tree to stay in. Instead, she stays in her own nest. Months after months, seasons after seasons, on staying in a nest like a bird, the fairy begins to change her appearance slowly and one day becomes a very sweet little weaver bird. The inhabitants of the garden now call the weaver bird the babui. They all say in unison, the babui's little nest is really the best.
You were listening to Story Lounge, produced by the World Service of All India Radio on behalf of Prasar Bharati in association with the National Book Trust, India.
Story Launch comes to you every day, same time, same channel.